To the public, Bill Medley always seemed unshakable. His deep baritone carried certainty, comfort, and emotional gravity, turning songs like "You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin' and Unchained Melody into permanent fixtures of collective memory. On stage, he stood tall, steady, and controlled, a man who appeared immune to doubt or fear. Yet behind that calm exterior existed a life far more complex than audiences ever imagined. For decades, Medley lived two parallel realities, one bathed in applause and harmony, the other shaped by grief, responsibility, and quiet endurance. He carried loss without spectacle, pain without performance, and fear without confession. While listeners connected his voice to romance and reassurance, he often sang while carrying emotional weight no crowd could see. This contrast defined much of his life, not as a contradiction, but as a testament to resilience and restraint. A childhood rooted in sound and simplicity. Bill Medley was born on September 19, 1940, in Los Angeles, California, into a household where music was part of daily life rather than a distant dream. His father played guitar, his mother sang, and their home echoed with melody long before Bill understood music as a profession. Church became his earliest stage, where he sang in the choir and absorbed the emotional power of voice and harmony. Unlike many future stars, Medley did not chase attention or ambition early on. He learned piano and guitar naturally, treating music as something lived rather than pursued. In high school, while others gravitated towards sports or social scenes, Medley spent hours in music rooms refining his sound. These quiet, disciplined beginnings shaped not only his voice, but also his character, grounding him in patience, humility, and focus, friendship, harmony, and a defining partnership. During his teenage years, Bill Medley formed a small doo-wop group with friends, including a young singer named Bobby Hatfield. Their early band gained modest local attention, but dissolved after graduation, as life often pulls people in different directions. Medley continued studying music at Los Angeles City College, developing his distinctive baritone with intention rather than urgency. When fate reunited him with Hatfield in the early 1960s, something immediately felt right. Their voices contrasted perfectly. Medley's rich, grounded low tones paired naturally with Hatfield's soaring tenor. This balance was not manufactured. It was instinctive. Together, they formed the Righteous Brothers, a duo built not on image or choreography, but on emotional delivery. Their early recordings attracted attention for their sincerity, laying the groundwork for something far greater than either could have anticipated. When a song changed everything, the Righteous Brothers' breakthrough arrived with "You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin'," a song that reshaped popular music almost overnight. Written by Barry Mann, Cynthia Weil, and Phil Spector, the track combined dramatic arrangement with raw emotional contrast between the two voices. Medley's spoken-style opening grounded the song in intimacy before Hatfield's soaring chorus lifted it skyward. The result was unforgettable. The song reached #1 and became one of the most played recordings in radio history. Suddenly, Medley and Hatfield were no longer club performers. They were cultural figures. Success followed quickly, but what struck Medley most was not fame itself. It was hearing audiences sing the words back, realizing that the music had entered people's lives in personal ways. That connection became his greatest motivation. Blue-eyed soul and lasting influence. Throughout the 1960s, the Righteous Brothers continued releasing hits that defined an era, including Unchained Melody, Soul and Inspiration, and Ebb Tide. Their sound was often described as blue-eyed soul, not because it imitated another tradition, but because it delivered emotional honesty without boundaries. On stage, they relied on restraint rather than spectacle, letting phrasing, silence, and timing do the work. Medley also emerged as a songwriter and producer, contributing creatively beyond his voice. He understood structure, emotion, and restraint, qualities that made his work timeless rather than trendy. Even when the duo briefly disbanded in the late 1960s, Medley continued recording and performing, though it became increasingly clear that their magic was strongest together. Their eventual reunion proved that the bond between voices had never faded. Private loss. Beyond the spotlight. While his career brought recognition, Bill Medley's personal life carried challenges that unfolded quietly. In the mid-1970s, he experienced the devastating loss of his former wife, Karen, an event that profoundly altered his emotional world. Though they were no longer married, they remained connected through shared history and family. Her passing left Medley not as a public figure, but as a father and human being facing grief without answers. During this time, he stepped away from touring to focus on his children and stability. Music, once constant, became secondary to responsibility and healing. Medley rarely spoke publicly about this period, choosing privacy over exposure. His silence was not avoidance, but respect for family, for memory, and for a pain too personal to perform. Losing a musical brother. In 2003, Bill Medley faced another defining loss when Bobby Hatfield passed away suddenly while they were on tour. Hatfield was more than a collaborator. He was a musical counterpart whose presence shaped Medley's identity as an artist. Losing him felt like losing half a voice, half a conversation that had lasted decades. For a time, Medley struggled to imagine performing without him. Audiences saw a pause in touring, but few understood the emotional recalibration taking place behind the scenes. Eventually, Medley returned to the stage, not to replace Hatfield, but to honor what they had built together. Performing became an act of remembrance rather than continuation, allowing the music to live on without pretending nothing had changed. Health, fear, and the fragility of voice. Later in life, Medley encountered a challenge uniquely frightening for a singer, a serious health diagnosis requiring surgery near his vocal cords. The possibility of losing his voice forced him to confront a question he had never faced. Who was he without sound? Recovery was slow and uncertain, marked by patience rather than certainty. Each performance afterward felt less like routine and more like gratitude. Singing was no longer guaranteed. It was earned each day. Medley has since spoken about how this experience deepened his appreciation for restraint and care. The voice that once felt permanent became something fragile, reminding him that identity is not just what we do, but how deeply we value it when it remains. Love, family, and quiet continuity. Over the years, Medley's personal life found stability through enduring relationships and family. His long marriage to Paula Vasu offered partnership grounded in understanding rather than spotlight. Together they raised a daughter, McKenna, who later joined him on stage, bridging generations through music. Their bond reflected continuity rather than nostalgia, showing how legacy can evolve rather than repeat itself. When Paula later passed after years of illness, Medley faced grief again, this time with the wisdom of experience and time. Loss no longer silenced him, but it deepened his presence. Family, faith, and routine became anchors, allowing him to continue performing without denying what he had endured. A legacy built on endurance. Bill Medley's legacy is not defined solely by chart positions or awards, though he earned both. It rests in the emotional imprint he left on listeners across generations. His voice carried sincerity without excess, power without force, and emotion without spectacle. Even into his later years, Medley continues performing selectively, not chasing attention, but honoring the path music gave him. Each appearance feels less like nostalgia and more like completion, finishing a sentence begun long ago. His story reminds audiences that strength is not the absence of pain, but the decision to keep standing with it. Bill Medley did not sing to escape life. He sang to remain inside it, fully and honestly.